The first report came from Brooklyn. It was cold that January morning in 2006 when Dr. Eileen Marsh, a sleep therapist with 22 years of experience, met with a patient who would unknowingly open the door to something far darker than a sleep disorder. His name was Gregory Palmer. 46. An accountant. Logical, well-spoken. But visibly shaken. "I've been dreaming of a man I don't know," he said. "It's the same dream. Every night. He stands at the foot of my bed. Just stands there. Pale face, thick eyebrows, black eyes. He's not doing anything. He doesn't talk. But I wake up terrified." Dr. Marsh did what she always did, she asked for a description. She sketched what he told her. The man's face was unremarkable, yet deeply unsettling. Too smooth. Eyes too big. Lips too still. She didn't think much of it, until a week later. Her second patient, Maria Lopez, a 22-year-old art student, came in crying. She hadn't slept in 3 nights. She also mentioned a dream. The same man. Same face. "He was in my kitchen," she whispered. "Standing by the fridge. Just looking at me. I asked him who he was. He smiled. And then he said, 'This is not your world anymore.'" Maria had never seen Gregory. Never heard about the sketch. But when Dr. Marsh pulled it out, Maria gasped and backed away from the desk. "That's him. That's him." Pushpin Real Documented Event, 2008. In 2008, an Italian researcher named Andrea Natella published a website. www.thisman.org. The site displayed a sketch of a strange man, the exact face from the dreams. It claimed that over 2,000 people from around the world had reported seeing this same face in their dreams. Countries included USA, Japan, Iran, South Africa, Brazil, Germany. Descriptions varied, but 3 things were always consistent. The man never introduced himself. He knew things he shouldn't. He watched, motionless, as the dreamers slowly realized they were trapped. Back in Brooklyn, Dr. Marsh didn't know the internet had caught wind of it. She hadn't uploaded her sketch anywhere. She hadn't even told her colleagues, until one night, she found a photocopy of the drawing on her own office chair. There was a message scrawled in jagged pen at the bottom. "He visits those who look for him." She was the only one with access to that drawer. And the building had been locked all night. She didn't sleep that night. She wouldn't sleep again for 6 more. On February 4th, just weeks after Gregory and Maria described their encounters, Dr. Eileen Marsh received a call from a colleague, Dr. Joshua Keller, a sleep specialist working at NYU Medical Center. "Do you have a minute?" he asked, voice tight with confusion. "I had a patient today. Nightmares. Drew a face. I swear to God, Eileen, I've seen this face before." Dr. Marsh didn't say a word. She opened her drawer, removed the same sketch, and asked, "Did it look like this?" Dead silence. "Where the hell did you get that?" "3 patients now," she said. "Unrelated. Unconnected. Same man. Same face. Jesus Christ," he whispered. "That's 4. That week, they quietly formed a network with 2 other therapists. They didn't go public, not yet, but they began tracking each case. Patterns began to emerge. The man always appears at night, but never in the same location. Sometimes a hallway. Sometimes a train station. Sometimes inside a mirror. He rarely speaks. But when he does, it's cryptic, messages like, "This is not your dream. You're awake, but not here." The others are listening. One patient claimed he was being chased by the man through a maze of hallways. Another said she found herself in a hospital waiting room, except everyone around her had the same face, his face. All of them turned to her at once. She woke up screaming, bleeding from her nose. Pushpin Real Record, Dreams Journal Archive, 2009. One account, submitted anonymously and preserved in the online archives of thisman.org, reads: I've never seen him in real life, but I always recognize him. It's like I already knew him. In the dream, I'm usually in my childhood home, but everything's slightly wrong, walls too tall, windows missing. He walks down the hallway and points to a door that doesn't exist in real life. I follow him in every time. I can't help it. And when I wake up, I'm crying. I don't know why. Researchers speculated mass suggestion, hypnosis, or a meme-like mental projection. But skeptics had no answers for identical descriptions from people across different continents, many without internet access, and some who were never even told about the sketch. In Brooklyn, Dr. Marsh's own dreams began to shift. At first, she saw shadows. Then flickers of movement in places that should have been still. On the fifth night, she dreamt of her office, exact to the detail, and he was sitting in her chair. He didn't move. Didn't speak. Just stared at her, eyes glinting like wet glass. When she tried to scream, her voice failed. When she tried to wake up, he smiled. And said, "It's not your turn. Yet." She woke up with scratch marks on her throat. 2 weeks after Dr. Marsh's dream encounter, the phenomenon took a darker, more physical turn. Her first patient, Gregory Palmer, the man who had originally described the dream entity, missed his third consecutive appointment. No calls. No cancellations. His voicemail was full. Concerned, Dr. Marsh contacted the local police. Officer Jenna Price from the 77th Precinct visited Gregory's apartment. What she found became the subject of an internal NYPD report that has never been released to the public, but fragments of the story leaked to online forums frequented by sleep researchers and horror investigators. Inside the apartment, nothing was disturbed. The front door was locked from the inside. The lights were off. The bed was made. But one thing was odd. On the living room wall, drawn in black marker, were the words, "He is real." And below it, crudely sketched, the same face. His face. Palmer was never found. Dr. Marsh started keeping voice memos, notes of her patients' confessions, and her own deteriorating sleep. "I saw him again last night. In a hospital corridor. No lights. Only the buzzing of overhead fluorescents. He was sitting at the nurse's station, hands folded. He looked at me and said, 'You're writing it down. That's why you see me.'" Within a month, 3 more patients reported seeing the man, and one of them, a 17-year-old girl named Layla Hargrove, attempted suicide after describing a looping dream she couldn't escape. "He keeps making me start over," she said during intake. "I try to leave the house in my dream, but every door leads back to my bedroom. Every mirror shows him standing behind me." After her hospitalization, Layla never spoke again. Pushpin Real Life Correlation, 2010 Journal of Sleep Disorders, unofficial. An underground psychological review titled Dream Contagion and Shared Constructs documented more than 300 patients worldwide between 2009 and 2010 claiming to dream of the same unknown male figure. Most were unrelated, living in different countries, and had no previous mental illness. In 89% of cases, patients described feelings of paralysis within the dream, sudden emotional distress upon waking, recurring sightings, sometimes over months, a growing belief that the man was not a dream, but real. Some even reported signs of poltergeist activity following the dreams, flickering lights, rearranged furniture, or missing time. Dr. Marsh's private practice slowly crumbled. Most of her regular clients vanished. Some stopped returning her calls. One left a voicemail at 3:07 a.m., only breathing heavily for 46 seconds before whispering. He said I told too much. That patient, an elementary school teacher from Queens, was found 2 days later in the East River. Autopsy showed no signs of trauma. Cause of death, cardiac arrest during sleep. Dr. Marsh quit practicing in April of 2006. She moved upstate and deleted her credentials. But every year, on the anniversary of Gregory Palmer's disappearance, she receives a plain white envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside is always the same thing. A printed photo of the face. Nothing else. And on the back of each one, handwritten in the same inhuman, jagged font. Still dreaming? By early 2007, the man's image had quietly begun spreading across sleep therapy networks, underground forums, and early YouTube horror communities. A few therapists had anonymously shared their patients' drawings, each time resulting in identical reactions. Sudden anxiety. Loss of sleep. Some even started seeing him after viewing the image once. It didn't help when the image made its way to an obscure blog called Mind Eclipse in late 2007, in a post titled, "Have you seen this man?" That post went viral. Quietly. It wasn't shared through social media. It didn't trend. But it somehow found its way into inboxes, old forums, message boards about lucid dreaming and dreamwalking. And within weeks, reports came in from all over the world. Pushpin Reel reported case, South Africa, 2008. A Johannesburg woman named Anita H. wrote an email to a private research group in Italy claiming, "I was walking in a desert in my dream. The sky was completely black. I didn't know where I was going, just walking forward. He stood behind me. I didn't see him, but I felt him. He whispered, 'Don't wake up yet.' When I did wake, my front door was wide open. I live on the 12th floor. No one else was home." Another case, from Osaka, Japan, involved a 12-year-old boy named Riku who screamed during a school nap and would not respond to his name for over 2 hours. His teacher said the boy had drawn a face over and over on his notebook, covering every page. One phrase appeared beneath each sketch. "He walks the same path every night." Back in the US, in a hospital in Massachusetts, a psychiatric patient named Claire D. had not spoken in 3 years. She'd been institutionalized after being found in a forest, barefoot and bleeding, with no memory of how she got there. On March 3, 2008, without warning, she stood up in the group therapy room, pointed to the wall, and screamed, "He's watching us right now." The security footage from that session shows every light in the room flickering violently at the exact same moment. The video freezes for 4 seconds. When it resumes, Claire is on the floor, unconscious, with the words, "You brought him here," written in reverse on the wall behind her. She had no pen. No paint. No ink was ever found on her hands. Media reaction. That same year, the This Man website launched, www.thisman.org, claiming over 2,000 people had seen him in their dreams. But what the public didn't know was that Andrea Natella, the site's creator, was also receiving private emails, ones he never published. Emails like, "Why does he speak Latin in my dream? I don't even know Latin. I saw him in a mirror at work. It wasn't a dream. He said my daughter would die in 3 days. She did." One came with a photo attachment. It was taken in an elevator security cam. Timestamp, 3:07 a.m. No one visible inside. Except for a single frame, at the exact middle of the footage, where a pale man with black eyes stood, facing the camera directly, with a faint, unnatural grin. Dr. Marsh saw the image on a forum buried deep in the dark web. She hadn't spoken his name in over a year. But when she downloaded the photo, her screen went black. When it turned back on, her sketch, the one she thought she had locked away, was now her wallpaper. She no longer sleeps. In October of 2008, one man, a former military intelligence analyst turned sleep researcher, claimed he had made contact with the entity. His name was Dr. Mitchell Wren, a neurologist specializing in lucid dreaming studies. Unlike others, Wren didn't avoid the face, he actively sought it out. He had read the scattered reports, visited testimonies.org, and noted the patterns. Encounters peaked between 3 to 3:15 a.m. The man appeared when people tried to control their dreams. The more you focused on him, the closer he came in later dreams. Wren devised a lucid induction method using sleep deprivation, binaural beats, and guided meditation. Over 3 weeks, he attempted contact more than 40 times. Then, on November 4th, he succeeded. He recorded the session afterward, shaking, his voice barely stable. "I was in a white room. Nothing in it. Just light, everywhere. And then he walked in through a door that hadn't been there before. Same face. Same dead eyes. But this time, he talked. He said, 'You shouldn't be here.' I asked who he was. He didn't answer. Just stared. I said, 'Are you a dream?' He said, and I quote, 'You gave me shape. Now I walk.' He moved closer. I felt my body convulsing in real life, like sleep paralysis but worse. He reached out and touched my chest and said, 'I'm not in your dream. You're in mine.'" Wren collapsed during that night's sleep session. He was found hours later with a full EEG helmet still strapped to his head, and every monitor blank. His recorded EEG patterns? Flatlined, but his heart never stopped. He later published a private journal, never officially released, with one final handwritten note. He is not an archetype. He is an invitation. Pushpin Real-World Parallel, unpublished, 2011. A group of researchers from the University of Toronto attempted a blind sleep study by showing participants the sketch from testimonies.org without context. 72% of them reported seeing the face that same night. 37% claimed direct interaction. One participant was later diagnosed with acute sleep psychosis. She believed she was missing time, waking up at 3:07 a.m. in unfamiliar places in her home, or finding her phone full of black photos she didn't take. Back in New York, Dr. Marsh received one final voicemail before changing her number permanently. It was from a number with no country code, no area prefix, just 6 digits, 030707. The message was only 2 seconds long. A male voice, quiet and raspy, whispering, "You told them." Then, silence. Dr. Marsh left the city. But she couldn't leave the dreams. Every night, it's the same hallway. Same flickering lights. Same door. And behind it, a man who never moves, but always gets closer. By early 2009, independent investigators, fringe journalists, and paranormal researchers began noticing something new. The dreams weren't just terrifying. They were structured. Patterns emerged. Symbols. Numbers. Some dreamers claimed they had begun seeing the same sequences of letters or times flashing in their dreams, moments before encountering the man. One of the most disturbing reports came from a Swedish researcher named Michael Brand, a linguist specializing in cryptographic dream language. He received dozens of emails from people reporting the same dream fragment. "I'm standing in front of a black door. There's a code etched above it. Vivid, 303. When I open it, he's waiting." Others described waking up with strange words in their mind, not English, not Latin, but something ancient. Brand collected over 500 such dream codes, and discovered that many of them mapped perfectly to actual geographic coordinates. One code in particular, DREM 0307NTX, mapped to an abandoned military radio outpost in northern Texas. When a team of local urban explorers visited the site, they found nothing unusual. Until one of them, a 19-year-old named Craig, went missing for 6 hours inside the facility. When they found him, he was kneeling in a dark hallway, facing a wall. Scratched into the concrete in his own blood were the words, "He's learning how to stay." Pushpin Real World Tien, 2009, Reddit archive, now deleted. A user under the name Lost_Dreamer303 posted the following in a lucid dreaming subreddit. "I thought I was making progress. For months I was able to walk past him, ignore him, gain control. But last night, he followed me out of the dream. I woke up, and for 3 full seconds, he was still standing in the corner of my room. I couldn't breathe." The post gained over 1,000 upvotes in minutes, before it was deleted by the user, account terminated. Moderators claimed they never received a deletion request. The post simply vanished. Dream code, 3:07 a.m. By this point, the time 3:07 a.m. had become nearly sacred among the dreamers. Dozens of people across cultures and languages reported waking up at exactly 3:07, covered in sweat, feeling watched. A few even set up cameras to record themselves sleeping. Most captured nothing. Just stillness. But one video, uploaded briefly to a darknet forum and later scrubbed, showed something deeply unsettling. A man asleep on his couch. Clock reads 3:06 a.m. At 3:07, the frame skips once. When it returns, a pale hand can be seen reaching from behind the couch. A voice is faintly heard in reverse whisper. "He's real when you watch him." Dr. Eileen Marsh, now isolated in a cabin near Lake Placid, began receiving unmarked packages. One contained a spiral notebook with every dream code ever recorded, and a note in her own handwriting. "You documented him. You opened the way." She insists she never wrote it. Each night, she dreams of corridors now. Each time, longer. And the man walks with her now. Not behind. Not in front. With. When she asked him, in the dream, what he wanted, he finally answered. A name. As the digital sightings multiplied, a small team of occult historians and anthropologists began to investigate a new question. What if this wasn't new at all? One of them, Dr. Adrian Volkov, a French researcher of medieval folklore, made a discovery that sent a ripple through the hidden corners of the paranormal academic world. While visiting an archive in Prague, he found a fragment of a 15th-century dream journal belonging to a Benedictine monk named Brother Thaddeus. The entry read, "I walk the halls of my dreams again. And there, by the stone door, he waits. His face, pale and wide-eyed, of no man I know. I dared ask his name. He smiled and said, 'It's not yet spoken.'" Volkov forwarded the image of the accompanying illustration to Dr. Marsh. It was crude. Ink faded by centuries. But unmistakably, the man was the same. Pushpin historical record, the Watcher of Dreams. In Persian mystic texts from the 1600s, a figure known as Shab-e-Nazar, the Watcher of the Night, appears in scattered writings. Descriptions always match. Thin face. Large black eyes. Smile, too calm. Speaks in unknown tongues or offers riddles. Appears to those who seek truth while asleep. One line appears in more than a dozen documents across cultures. He visits the seekers, but walks with the tellers. The paintings. A Romanian artist named Ioan Dolinescu, who died mysteriously in 1913, painted dozens of pieces now housed in private collections. Many of the pieces were dark, nightmarish landscapes, but in nearly every one, if you looked closely, the same face appeared. Sometimes in a window. Sometimes standing by a door. Sometimes reflected in a pool of black water. Art historians believe this was an expression of trauma from the Balkan conflicts. Until a private collector, researching the provenance of his Dolinescu painting in 2021, had a panic attack while dreaming. He claimed the man stepped out of the water in his dream and said, "I've been here longer than paint." Digital entity or ancient archetype? While skeptics clung to theories of internet hysteria or meme-based collective delusion, too many examples surfaced that predated mass communication entirely. Drawings, symbols, even chant-like phrases that lined up across cultures, without any chance of contact between them. In 2013, a vault was uncovered beneath a ruined monastery in Sicily. Inside was a book of prayers, unmarked, untranslated. But one page, page 307, had a single phrase written in Latin. Somniator advenit sine nomine. The dreamer comes without a name. Below it, the faint charcoal image of a pale man with dark eyes. Underneath, scrawled in red ink, "Do not ask." Back in the present, Dr. Marsh began having waking episodes, moments where time froze for a few seconds, and everything in her field of view blurred, except him. One day she passed a mirror in her hallway. He was standing behind her, smiling. In 2015, a controversial dream researcher named Dr. Calvin Wren, known for fringe experimentation with consciousness mapping, announced a private study that he refused to publish through any academic journal. The study had a single goal: to discover the name of the man seen in countless dreams. Dr. Wren had long believed that the man was not simply a dream figure, but a cognitive parasite, a mimetic entity that used recurrence and emotional imprint to spread between human minds. He called it the Nomen experiment. The process was simple in theory but deeply dangerous in execution. The subject would be shown the composite sketch of the man. Using deep meditative states and sensory deprivation, they would enter lucid dreaming. Once the man appeared, they were to ask only one question: "What is your name?" Test subject, Emily Ross, 29, a trained lucid dreamer who had already reported 3 prior encounters with the entity. On April 7, 2015, Emily entered the test chamber, equipped with biometric monitors and REM sensors. The lab recorded a standard sleep pattern, until 3:07 a.m. At that exact moment, every monitor in the room glitched. Not failed, glitched. The footage rewound itself for 11 seconds, then resumed. When Emily woke up, she was unresponsive for 40 full minutes. Catatonic. Eyes open. Breathing slow. Pulse steady. When she finally blinked and whispered, the room went silent. She said, "He has no name. But he wanted me to try anyway." Dr. Wren pressed her for details. Her voice trembled as she answered. "He asked if I really wanted to bring him forward. I said yes. He leaned in so close I couldn't see his face anymore. And then he spoke something. It wasn't a name. It was a sound. It felt wrong in my mouth. Like it didn't belong in this world." She never attempted lucid dreaming again. 6 days later, she was found in her apartment, alive, but every mirror had been smashed, and the walls were painted black. In red chalk, on the ceiling. He heard me say it. Pushpin the aftermath. Dr. Wren deleted the experiment logs and went completely off-grid. He gave one interview in a podcast months later, where he made a chilling claim. He's not trying to be found. He's trying to be spoken. A name is a doorway. And once you give it to him, he doesn't go away. He arrives. When asked where he believed the entity came from, Wren paused for 10 full seconds. Then said, "Not from us. But he's ours now." And then came the others. Within 2 months, scattered reports began appearing from people who had never seen the face before, and suddenly began dreaming of him. But these dreams were different. Now, in their dreams, he was already there. Waiting. And when they asked who he was, he'd smile, and say nothing. But sometimes, He'd point at them. Dr. Marsh, now entirely withdrawn from society, kept a journal in her final years. One entry, dated September 7, 2016. He doesn't need to speak anymore. He's in the reflection now. I only dream of glass. Endless mirrors. And he walks behind every one. She died in her sleep 3 weeks later. Time of death, 3:07 a.m. In early 2017, a low-traffic paranormal podcast called Dark Frequency received an anonymous email. The message was brief. He's crossed. Play this only once. And don't speak his name. Attached was a 12-second audio file labeled simply, 303 voicefinal.wave. The podcast host, a man named Travis Moore, previewed it off-air. He described it as a low-frequency hum, followed by a whisper in a language he couldn't identify, then a sudden burst of static and breathing. But something was wrong. Moore later said the room got colder when the file played. He developed a nosebleed. And for the next 3 nights, he had the same dream. A white hallway. No doors. No windows. At the end, a mirror. And behind it, not a reflection. Him. Moore never aired the clip. But it leaked anyway. The file was uploaded briefly to an obscure mega.nz folder titled /mirrorpath/unspoken/. No metadata. No origin. Listeners from multiple countries reported nearly identical physical effects. Sudden temperature drops. Loss of time. Auditory distortion, hearing whispers long after the file stopped. One woman from New Zealand claimed she fell asleep with it playing, and awoke with deep scratches on her back, which she couldn't reach herself. Others reported more chilling reactions. Hearing his name whispered when no one was around. Waking at exactly 3:07 a.m., even after taking sleep aids. Seeing him in reflections, but not in dreams anymore. Pushpin audio spectrogram analysis. A Russian cybersecurity researcher analyzed the file visually using a spectrogram tool. What he found shocked even skeptics. At timestamp 9.4 seconds, the waveform spelled a word. Don't. It was visually embedded into the structure of the sound, a hidden message in frequency. But more disturbingly, when reversed, the waveform formed a crude human face, with hollow eyes and a crooked grin. That image matched the original This Man sketch from 2008. The Unexplained Interview, Channel 307. In 2018, a forgotten public access TV station in Oregon, KZAX 13, aired a late-night call-in show called Channel 307. One night, a caller phoned in. The show's host, Darren Wallace, greeted him as normal. But the caller never responded. Instead, he began to breathe. Slowly. Rhythmically. Then, in a calm, steady tone, the man said, "I see you when you're not dreaming. That's when you're weakest." Then the line cut. The camera in the studio flickered. For one frame, the monitor behind the host turned to static. In that static, viewers who paused the video later saw what appeared to be a face, faint, watching, grinning. The footage was removed from YouTube less than 24 hours later. The channel was terminated. No strike. No warning. Now, even speaking about him has become a trigger. Multiple dream researchers have stopped publishing. Sleep study forums have closed threads mentioning the man. And YouTube auto-generators sometimes fail to transcribe his name, instead substituting it with redacted or unknown male speaker. As if the system itself refuses to identify him. And still, people report dreams. Not all of them see the man. Some just hear. "You gave me shape. Now give me voice." In late 2019, just months before the world would shut down in fear of a different kind of unseen threat, a researcher named Naomi Astor announced the creation of a counter-dream. She believed it was possible to build a protective mental construct inside the subconscious, a kind of dream fortress, designed specifically to keep him out. Naomi had spent over a decade studying lucid dreaming, symbolic defense patterns, and mimetic intrusion. She called her project the Mirror Vault. Her logic was based on ancient esoteric principles, that names could invite, but symbols could repel. She claimed to have built a mental labyrinth of doors, locked from the inside, containing no reflective surfaces, no empty hallways, and no shadows. She recruited 4 volunteers. All had previously reported seeing him in their dreams. All were given one instruction: enter the Mirror Vault. If he appears, do not speak. Do not engage. Walk away. Night 1, 2 volunteers woke up screaming. Both had made it into the vault. Both claimed he was already inside. One said he didn't break in. He was waiting at the center. The other had a nosebleed and severe anxiety. When asked what he saw, he whispered there were no mirrors. But he didn't need them anymore. Night 2, the 3rd volunteer, Isaac, did not wake up. He remained in REM for 11 hours. Doctors considered inducing consciousness. At 3:07 a.m., he sat up on his own, stared directly into the lab's wall camera, and said, "You can't shut a door when you're inside his house." Then collapsed. He had no memory of saying it. Night 3, Naomi entered the Mirror Vault herself. She had prepared for years. Her defenses were layered, disciplined, polished. She activated audio recording equipment and biometric monitors, fully aware of the risks. As she drifted into sleep, her vitals remained steady. For 6 minutes, nothing happened. Then her heart rate spiked. Brain activity surged beyond normal REM. She began to speak in her sleep, first in a calm voice, then in something unknown. The audio was later slowed and filtered. What it captured chilled even the hardened technicians. He found the mirror. He brought it with him. I opened the door. I thought I built it, but it was his reflection the whole time. Then, a whisper. One phrase. Barely audible. Almost mechanical. Stay with me. Naomi never published the results. She disappeared from all academic circles. Her website went offline. Friends said she became paranoid, removing every reflective surface from her home. The last public sighting of Naomi Astor was recorded by a neighbor's security cam. She was standing outside at 3:07 a.m., staring into a puddle. Smiling. Pushpin final message. In 2020, a Reddit user named Unmirable posted a thread titled, "If you see him tonight, don't wake up." In the thread, they wrote, "He doesn't live in dreams anymore. He just uses them to invite you. What you call waking up is just entering his side." The post gained 6,000 upvotes. And then the account vanished. No deletion. No name. Just user not found. Now, when people describe the man, they don't just talk about seeing him. They talk about feeling him. Before falling asleep. In the corner of the room. In the static on the screen. In the places where mirrors no longer reflect them properly. He no longer waits for you to dream. He's already in the room. Watching. And wondering when you'll finally say his name.